welcome back. In this exclusive interview, it's a real privilege to be joined by Eric Dell, who is the American Bakers Association President and CEO. Hello, Eric.
Great to be here, Joseph. Nice to see you, and I'm excited about the interview. So thank you for doing this.
Well, let's dive straight into the first question. I know that ABA recently unveiled its new 5-year strategic plan. So could you share with us what led to the development of this plan, and how does the plan aim to propel the baking industry forward?
Absolutely. And thanks for the question. I started with ABA about a year and a half ago, and one of the items that was top on the list was creating a new strategic plan for the organization to help drive the industry as well as the organization. So we've brought our board together and our leadership of the organization together to really find a focus for the organization to help drive the industry. And over the last year, up until March of this year, when we announced our new strategic plan, we took that whole year and created the strategic plan through meetings with our leadership, meetings with the industry, me visiting lots of folks in the industry to get input. So it's really driven. This plan is very focused and driven by the industry. And it has 3 prongs to it. What we think is important and what the board thought was important to really focus on, because sometimes if you don't have that focus, you can go all over the place, right? So the first is making sure the industry is the destination workplace, working to ensure that we have policies in place from our government, from all the way from federal to local, that ensure that we can have a workplace that increases the ability of people to work in this country that want to work, as well as ensuring that the workplace is safe for those employees, working with the government on those regulations, working with our HR professionals internally, human resource professionals from our member companies to find out the best practices in those areas where we can help educate our members on resources. Maybe it's working with colleges and universities, community colleges, as well as veterans groups and so forth, and giving those resources or second chance workers who come out of prison, and giving them the opportunity to work in our industry, the baking industry, which is a great industry, and have a career. So really promoting that and promoting the industry as destination workplace. The second is category growth, driving growth for the category. We'll be doing that here again by making sure that there's opportunity to expand the category. We have to know where we're at, but how do we grow the category? And some of those growth opportunities could be, doing good by doing well, as I say. So, we have a lot of folks in this country and across the globe who don't have access to food, and we can grow our category while expanding that access and helping people who don't have access to food, as an example, and grow our category as well by selling more into those communities and giving access to people who don't have access to food. Those are some of the ways. We also want to talk about, for category growth, we'll be talking about what our members are doing. This industry and I'm sure it's the same across the globe, is very giving to their communities. They're interwoven in their communities. It's kind of in their DNA. So we'll be telling that positive story of what our members in the industry is doing within their communities to give back to their communities. And then third is really creating a higher level impact for the association, from the association to our members and to the industry. And that's really raising the bar with better thought leadership at our events, better focus on a higher level focus on our advocacy work with government agencies to ensure that we're really advocating for the industry and protecting the industry, but also promoting the industry so that lawmakers understand that as well. And then that higher level impact is really focusing on the events that we're doing to create the content that drives the industry and provides value to our members. So really excited about building that, increasing that, the work around culture within and creating core values at our association for retention of our employees to give back, and just increasing that value, the membership value to our members. So those are really the 3 core. Those are the 3 core components of the plan.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic plan, full of opportunities. I think
Absolutely.
We'll all be very keen to see how, the positive impacts that do come over the next, or for the remainder of the 5 years. With a dedicated team in Washington, D.C. that are navigating the US regulatory and legislative landscape, what would you say are some of the key issues that ABA is closely tracking, and how might they impact the commercial baking sector?
Sure. As you said, we have a dedicated team in DC that we're expanding right now. We've expanded our work into the state. We had coverage in DC, but also expanding into the states, all 50 states, coverage to track what's happening there and be involved there as well. I would say the last thing we need right now is more burdensome regulation from the government on businesses. And we try to work with the government to have regulations that make sense. We want regulations that protect food safety, that protect our consumers, because if we don't have food safety and we don't protect our consumers and our workers, that's the basis of what we need to do, is to protect, right? So we work with our government, or try to work with the government in areas. A couple of those areas, one is with the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They'll soon be announcing a definition, we believe, of healthy, the healthy claim as you use it on your packaging for products. So we've been heavily involved in that, trying to ensure that our voice is heard on how our industry can use the term healthy and how it's defined on packaging, and then also front of pack labeling. That is coming down the pipe from FDA as well. We're actively involved in that. We believe something will happen in terms of finalizing that rule on some more regulations around front of pack labeling by the end of this calendar year. And then lastly, we obviously follow the issues at the FDA and USDA, but surrounding sodium reduction and the voluntary programs of sodium reduction. So following that closely as well, because it impacts our industry. But bottom line is we try to work with government to create regulations that make sense and are really protect the consumer, but also protect the industry.
And to continue talking a little bit about this sort of topic of regulations, or in this case, guidelines, with the dietary guidelines for Americans being revisited, what role is ABA playing in this process, particularly regarding recommendations related to grains?
Absolutely. So we've been actively involved in the dietary guidelines process. As some folks and most folks know, this are the nutrition goals that they set at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, for the federal feeding programs. Those cover the K through 12 schools and a lot of other programs that the federal government does. We, as leader of the grain chain, have provided comments to USDA. We're working closely in the process with USDA. And really, our comments focused in two areas. We want to make sure that the USDA is not improperly relying on the term ultra processed to define anything around the dietary guidelines, because there really is no consensus on the definition of what ultra processed is and what it means. So that was one of the main points in our comments. And the second part of our comments and our conversations and work with the USDA is we obviously don't want to reduce the number of grain servings, the daily grain servings that's recommended by the program. So working on really the issues around ultra processed foods and how there is no set definition for that, as well as not reducing the amount of grains that are recommended, the servings of grains.
I wanted to ask you as well about a couple of specific challenges. The first one being a global challenge that's shared in the baking industry, workforce shortages. How is the American Bakers Association addressing this challenge in the US, and what are your thoughts on the long-term outlook for the industry's workforce?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, one of our key pillars and goals of our strategic plan is to create the baking industry as the destination workplace. So it is core to our plan. It is driving our plan for what we're doing for the industry, for what we're doing for our members. So what I would say is we're following very closely a lot of regulations that impact the workforce that are coming out of the Department of Labor. Those include some heat illness and prevention regulations that are coming out, something called the walk-around rule, which we believe is an overreach by the Department of Labor and can cause concerns for worker safety, workplace safety. So we are following that and actively engaged in that heat illness prevention, as well as the walk around rule. And what I say is, I think this is going to be a challenge. And you said globally, Joseph. It is a global challenge, right? And we're having to tackle it together. We believe there's going to be a huge shortage by 2030 of over 53 million jobs in the U.S. Shortage, or excuse me, 53,000 job shortage in the U.S. Over time by 2030. So we're working, as I said earlier, with our HR professionals to find solutions that work. And we believe it's about that culture and flexibility that we can create in the baking industry. If you go into baking, excuse me, bakeries in the U.S., and I'm sure it's all over the world, I go in and I see, excuse me, the tenure on the wall. They say 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, and they have a list of the employees that have been working there for so long. So this is a great industry that is a history of a workforce that stays and makes a career out of the baking industry. So we want to continue that. We want to find ways to work with the government to enhance our ability to drive people into our industry through government, through colleges and universities, through veterans, through other folks, as I said. So we're actively working on that with HR professionals and regulators and lawmakers.
And to talk a little bit about tax policies, which are obviously vital for keeping American businesses competitive, how are ABA's efforts, could you share more about how ABA's efforts to advocate for the restoration of tax policies, such as full expensing, and how this will benefit the industry?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. This is one of the areas that over the last year and a half, ABA has expanded its work into more of the general business-related and manufacturing-related issues. Traditionally covered a lot of issues, ABA on the food safety and the nutrition side. However, we've expanded a lot into the space that you're asking about on the tax side and general business issues, because it impacts industries and it impacts your business. Tax policy, obviously. So we are advocating for a tax bill that has passed the House already. The U.S. House is sitting in the Senate, which would extend full expensing and immediate expensing as well. That would help with as folks spend CapEx money, they can expense it off quicker. It also impacts research and development. There's a research and development tax credit in there as well that we would like to see renewed, as well as the corporate tax rate. And those are phasing out. They were put in place in 2017. They're phasing out now. And we really hope that the Senate will move on this and the president would sign an extension. And really, if they could make it permanent, it'd be great. But an extension of these, because it helps business. If you can do more research and development because you can afford it, because there's an incentive to do more research and development, that increases jobs, that increases what you're doing in terms of automation, which in turn, if you can automate your equipment faster or update your equipment faster and make it more sustainable, this goes to the sustainability argument too, right? You can make it more efficient. You're helping the climate. You're helping reach your goals around sustainability. So it just impacts a lot of things, tax policy. But we hope that will move forward. But that's an area that's really important to our members and to our industry and to the workplace in general.
And when it comes to your research into the US consumer marketplace, would you say that you've seen that baked goods are a steady component of the American diet? Or are you seeing fluctuations in consumption?
Well, I think we've, under our new strategic plan, we've started doing our bakery playbooks, which is really research, enhancing our research arm to provide more research and that high level impact that we talked about in our strategic plan. So monthly, we're having research projects come out now, and these are bakery playbooks that are based on different categories, say donuts or brownies or cookies or bread, buns, rolls. So we've started those. We will continue those.
and we'll continue them annually to get trend data as the years go, as we go forward into the years ahead. What I would say is consumers are cautious right now. They're watching their pocketbooks, right? They're watching their wallets, but they're optimistic. What we see is they're optimistic about the future. And I think this is probably, I'm assuming global, but this is what we're seeing in the U.S. is there's a slight reduction in the amount of trips and the actual unit sales. However, the dollar sales are up, and probably has something to do with inflation too as well. So you may have more you may have more dollar sales, but you have less unit sales. So trying to part of our strategy of category growth is to increase those unit sales. So the category continues to grow, and that's a big focus of ours. But yes, consumers are cautious, but we're happy that our data shows they're optimistic as well. And there are a few areas that really shine through, and those are brownies, pies, and donuts that seem to be faring very well with consumers. Consumers are also saying they're willing to take that time to celebrate those moments with baked goods, cakes, donuts, and celebrations and annual celebrations. But wherever in the world people celebrate July 4th here in the U.S., right? And other countries have their own celebrations and cultures, and we're seeing that people are really willing to continue that, and that's really important. And it's not only good for the baking industry, but it's also good for families and for communities, right?
Well, thank
to
you.
Continue those celebrations and coming together.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those insights with us. It's really interesting to understand, insights from different parts of the world. Just to finish off, Eric, I wanted to ask, because I know that ABA has several important events on the horizon. Could you give us a sneak preview into what members might expect from these events in 2025?
Sure. We've got two great events coming up in 2025, our convention, our ABA annual convention. And I'll say, since you're an international publication, we had a large number and an increase of our international attendees last year. And we're just looking to really continue ramping that up and that participation from across the globe by bakers from across the globe and suppliers as well to attend our convention. It will be in March, this March in Orlando, Florida. So it's easy and a short trip from Europe across the pond. So we're excited about that, and we just think we're really just continuing to increase the value there of the presentations and the content that we're driving there. The second event is held every 3 years, as a lot of your folks will know, IBIE, which we co-own with BEMA, and that will be hosted in September of this coming year in 2025 in Las Vegas. So everyone will be attending that as well, and come to Las Vegas in September and be with us. Just a huge baking show that we're so proud of and excited about. And it looks like the tracking is doing really exceptional. So we're looking forward to seeing a huge crowd there.
Well, thank you once again, Eric. It has been really insightful, and it's wonderful to gain your insight, from the other side of the ocean. And the events definitely sound like something that, those watching will be keen to attend. If anyone has any questions, please do reach out to Eric and the association, and they will be happy to answer those for you. Eric, thank you once again for joining us at Bakery Live.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate it.